morning, students. Last time we ended with the Anglo-Maratha wars. What we saw in that Anglo-Maratha war? That the Britishers won and Marathas lost. Due to that, what happened? Whatever the Maratha kingdom territories were there, I told you 4 important territories were there. The territories belonging to Holkar, the territories belonging to Peshwas, the territories belonging to Bhosle, and the territories belonging to Scindia. All this came under the rule of Britishers. So almost the south part, the eastern part and the western part of the India was under their rule. Only the northern part of India where the Sikhs were ruling, that part still Britishers were not able to conquer. Maharaja Ranjit Singh was the Sikh king during 1801 to 39. So you can see 38 long years he ruled the northern part of India. He was a very good king. He loved his people. He used to see the welfare of his people, and he had a good rapport with his people. And always he used to see that whether his people are happy or not. And he was a very powerful king. Such a powerful king that whatever the neighboring kings were there, they were afraid of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. That much power he had. And they used to come near Maharaja Ranjit Singh to ask his advice. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh used to give correct advice to them. That is how the Maharaja Ranjit Singh kept his dignity and his power near the surrounding his kingdom and nearby his territory also. And he had one thing, ambition. He also wanted to expand his kingdom. For that he had to fight, and he fought with Afghans. They were the invaders, but he was not afraid because he was a very powerful king. And not only that, you know how much he had soldiers? 90,000 to 1 lakh soldiers he had. And all these soldiers used to look after them very nicely, provide whatever they want. So all these soldiers were very faithful to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So he knew that he had soldiers' power with him. So he fought with Afghans very bravely and defeated the Afghans. After defeating the Afghans, he got Lahore, Multan and Peshawar, which is now today in Pakistan region. Lahore, Multan and Peshawar. He was able to conquer those areas. And as he was a very powerful king, virtuous king, and a very good king, such that he, as if you know, in a forest, who is the king of the forest? Lion is the king of the forest. In the same way, in northern territory, the Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a lion. So he got the name as Sher-e-Punjab. Sher means lion, lion of Punjab. How Tipu Sultan got the tiger of Mysore, same way Maharaja Ranjit Singh got Sher-e-Punjab, lion of Punjab. That title he won. Then he made Lahore as a capital. But in 1839, he died. After his death, no such powerful kings were there in the Sikh, empire. His son came, Kharat Singh, who ruled only for a few days, and he was thrown out because among the Sikh people there was a fight for the successor of the Sikh empire. So what happened? Many kings came, and only for few days they ruled and they were thrown out. Due to this, what happened? The whole Punjab kingdom, which was a very big kingdom, got divided into small kingdom. But what happened is that after many kings ruled, Maharaja Dulip Singh came in the year 1843 to 93. But he was a small infant, that is, he was of 5 years old. That time he became the Maharaja. 5 years old, how can you expect a 5-year boy to rule or to look after the administration? So, Maharani Jind Kaur, mother of Maharaja Dulip Singh, was guiding what to call it as Dulip Singh, and she was also a good administrator, and she was looking after the Sikh Empire. But now the Sikh Empire was not one. Already small, what to call it as a small, kingdom it was divided into, because there was no powerful Sikh king was there. So this and all was observed by Britishers. See, Britishers are very clever and very shrewd. They will be waiting for the opportunity. Now they thought, yes, now we have got the opportunity, because Maharaja Ranjit Singh was not there. So that was a main, what to call it as being a hindrance for them to come and conquer Punjab. Why? Because they were also afraid of what to call it as Maharaja Ranjit Singh, because he was a very powerful king. And you know what happened? They were friendly with what to call it Maharaja Ranjit Singh. See, ulta. In other things and what, the Indian kings were friendly with Britishers because afraid that Britishers will attack them. But here, reverse happened. Maharaja Ranjit Singh was such a powerful that the Britishers were afraid of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and they themselves walked and they told that we want your friendship. So they were friendly with what to call it as Maharaja Ranjit Singh. That much power he had, that much worchest he had. That is why he was called as Sher-e-Punjab, Lion of Punjab. So they were friendly, but after the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, what happened? They thought, now this is the chance for us to invade Punjab and get that, what to call it as, territory of Punjab, which was not in our hand, because they came to know weak administration was there. There was no powerful, what to call it as, a king. Only Maharani Jind Kaur was there, but how much she can rule and how much she can look after the kingdom, it was difficult for her. And what happened? The Sikh empire started to divide into small kingdom. That is, factionalism took place. And what happened? This the Britishers took advantage. And at the same time, when Maharaja Dulip Singh was ruling, two very important military commanders were there, and they were a very trusted military commanders, that is Raja Lal Singh and Tej Singh, and very powerful military commanders. But what happened is that some of the Sikh members who were connected with Raja Lal Singh and Tej Singh, they were bribed by the Britishers. Britishers will do that only, divide and rule. That is what their policy. What they will do, they will find out the weak point in that kingdom. They will bribe that particular person. So they bribed, what to call it as, some of the persons who knew all the secrets of Raja Lal Singh and Tej Singh and the secret of Sikh empire. So due to that, when the war, that is First Anglo-Sikh War, was fought in 1848 and 49, these two people, they tried their best, military commanders, but they did not know that some of the members of their, what to call it, army were bribed by the Britishers, and they have told whatever the secrets of Sikh empire was there. So they were defeated by the British East India Company. Henry Indy was the military general at that time, and what happened? The Britishers won. So now the Punjab territory, that is the Sikh empire, was in their hands. Now we will see after this what are the results of the First Anglo-Sikh War. So once again I will just tell you about this. So what happened after gaining the Maratha kingdom? The Britishers had eye on the Punjab territory or Sikh empire. But that time it was ruled by a very powerful and virtuous and good king called as Maharaja Ranjit Singh from 1801 to 39. 38 years he ruled. Imagine how many years? 38 years he ruled. He was very good to his people. He used to look after the welfare of his people, and he had about 90,000 to 1 lakh soldiers, and all these soldiers' welfare he maintained. And he looked after their family, their children, what they needed. So all these soldiers were very honest to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So he knew that he had a very powerful army, and he was such a a powerful king that whatever the other kingdoms were there, those kings were afraid of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. They used to come, ask advice, and they were not ready to fight with Maharaja Ranjit Singh. They were on good terms and friendly with Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh had in mind to expand his kingdom. So Afghans attacked him, thinking that what Maharaja Ranjit Singh will do. But they were not knowing that what powerful Maharaja Ranjit Singh was. With his trusted army, Maharaja Ranjit Singh defeated the Afghans, and he captured Lahore, Multan and Peshawar. Then what he did is that he made Lahore due to this what he got, he is able to defeat the the Afghans also. So he got the title as Sher-e-Punjab, Lion of Punjab. After getting the title, he made Lahore as his capital. And all this was watched by Britishers. Britishers did not have courage to come and fight with Maharaja Ranjit Singh, because they were afraid of his large army, huge army, and the loyalty of those army soldiers towards Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So what they did is that better to be away from Maharaja Ranjit Singh and better to develop a friendly relationship. So they only came forward and developed a friendly relationship with Maharaja Ranjit Singh. But that Sikh empire could not remain for a long time, because in 1839 Maharaja Ranjit Singh died, and that was the end of a era of what? A powerful, virtuous and a good king, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. After him, his son came, Kharat Singh, but he was not a very powerful king. He was pulled down by the others who was anxious to become the Maharaja of a Sikh empire. So what happened? Like that way, many kings came, and only few years they were, or not years also, few days they were able to rule, and one by one what happened? For succession among the Sikhs only, the fight began to take place. Due to this, there was there was a commotion among the Sikh people of the Sikh empire, and then what happened? The fighting was going on for the succession. But what in 1843, Maharaja Dulip Singh, that is when he was of age of 5 years, he was made as the king of the Sikh empire. But as he was a 5-year-old boy, his mother Maharani Jind Kaur was the guide for him. So she was ruling on behalf of Maharaja Dulip Singh. Then what happened is that this all was watched keenly by the Britishers, and they had the ambition of conquering northern territory. So they came to know, Maharaja Ranjit Singh is gone. So the main hindrance, the main rock of Gibraltar he was. They were not allowing to conquer Sikh empire. So that has gone. So it's now it will be easy for us to conquer Punjab. So they came to know, the administration is very weak. And what they came to know, the whole Sikh empire is not united. Now it has been divided into small kingdoms. That also they came to know. So Britishers took the advantage of this. But during Maharaja Dulip Singh, two great commanders, military commanders, Raja Lal Singh and Tej Singh, they were very good commanders and very loyal and trusting to Maharaja Dulip Singh. But who were working under them, few members. Britishers saw, where is the the loophole. They found out, oh, here the loophole is there, because these people will come and only fight the Britishers. No. So they tried to bribe the people, the soldiers who were under Raja Lal Singh and Tej Singh, and 1 or 2 soldiers will be there for the, what to call it as, for the money sake. So what they did is they gave away all the secrets of the Sikh Empire, and due to that, what happened, when the war broke in 1848 to 49, the Sikh, what to call it as, military commanders lost to the British East India Company. In that, the military governor was Henry Hardinge, and that is how the British East India Company won the war, that is first Anglo-Sikh war. Now let us see what happened after the war was fought. The Britishers won. What was the result? And we generally know that when the war will end, there will be a treaty. So here also, war ended by signing of Treaty of Lahore. It was signed by Maharaja Dulip Singh. You know, he was about 7 years age when he signed this, what to call it as, Treaty of Lahore. So what the conditions were put, that Maharaja Dulip Singh will remain as a king. So for that, Britishers had no, what to call it as, any objection. Maharaja Dulip Singh will remain as the king. Then Sikh has to surrender Jalandhar. It is a Doab region in Jalandhar. A Doab region is there. That region, okay, was to be surrendered to Britishers. Then you know that I told you 90,000 to 1 lakh army members were there, soldiers were there in Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army. So that a huge army, what they did is that reduction in Sikh army. They reduced the Sikh army so that they can involve their British army in them, or British troop they can create over there. So they reduced the Sikh army. Then what happened? Then they told, in Lahore court, Maharaja Dulip Singh will be the king, and one of the Britishers should be a member of that Lahore court. Means it should be a courtier in the Lahore court, one of the British member. And what happened? Maharaja Dulip Singh, I told you, who Maharani Jind Kaur was guiding Maharaja Dulip Singh, because he was a young age. So what these Britishers did, that they removed Maharani Jind Kaur as the guardian for, what to call it as, Maharani Dulip Singh. They themselves became the guardian for Maharaja Dulip Singh. Administration, everything will be looked after Britishers. So they can imply their own rules and regulations, policies. This was a result. That is, result ended in signing Treaty of Lahore. It was signed in year 1846. The Treaty of Lahore was signed. So that is how the first Anglo-Sikh war ended. As we saw in first Anglo-Sikh war, the Treaty of Lahore was very important. In that treaty, we saw what happened. That is, Maharaja Dulip Singh was retained as the king himself, and Maharani Jind Kaur was what to call it as, removed, and Britishers became the guardian for him, and some Jalandhar territory went under the Britishers. So many things happened in the Treaty of Lahore. After that, what was the reason for the second Anglo-Sikh war, which was fought between 1848 and 49? What was the reasons? The reason was that the Britishers were, some part of the Punjab was conquered by Britishers, and Britishers were ruling. But what they did is that they started to give trouble to the people of the Sikh Empire. They were harassing the people of Sikh Empire. So the people were not happy. They were unhappy by the ruling, conditions of Britishers. They were not happy at all, because they had seen the era of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He was a very good person, and they was looking after his kingdom very nicely, looking after the welfare of the people very nicely, but his Britishers were just harassing and they were not looking after the people nicely. They were harassing the people, and the one or the other thing, they were giving trouble to the people. So the Sikh people were very much unhappy with the rule of Britishers. Besides that, what they did is that Maharani Jind Kaur, okay, they removed her as the guardian, but they also cut the expenses. Whatever the expenses should be given by the Britishers, they cut that expenses. That enraged the Sikh people. How dare this Britishers can do to our Maharani? Because she was a very good lady, and she also ruled the kingdom very nicely, helping the people and seeing the welfare of the people. So the people were not happy. Why? Because they thought why the Britishers should do, why they should cut the expenses of Maharani Jind Kaur. She is a Maharani, so for her expenses should be given. Then what happened? Then these Britishers slowly, what was the rules and regulations made by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, they slowly started to change that. And how they started to make the rules and policies in their favor. Not in the favor of the people. In their favor, they slowly started to change the rules and regulations. That is why the harassment for the people became day by day more and more. And what they did is that they started to collect from local people, that is Indians, more taxes, and they were not paying the taxes. That all this, what happened, it was like a, what you call it as volcano when it is venting up inside, when the time comes it will erupt. No, in the same way it was happening in the people of Sikh empire. They were not happy at all. And what happened? Governor Mullah Chopra was there of Multan. Multan is a small kingdom. He was looking after Multan. He did not like the rules and regulations made by Britishers. So he went against the Britishers. So what the Britishers did? They siege. Siege means what? Whatever the Multan territory was there, fully the Britishers surrounded, seeing that the ammunitions for fighting, whatever the arm and ammunitions is needed, he stopped that, reaching Mulraj Chopra. So Mulraj Chopra, what happened? So the Multan was taken away from Mulraj Chopra. That also was a very important thing. Then Britishers, what they did, and I told you, the whole Sikh, as empire was divided into small factions. For that factions, Sardars were there. The territories, it was ruled by Sardars, and they were also looking after the people very nicely, and people who loved whatever the rules and regulations which was made by Sardars, because they were seeing the welfare of the people. And what these Britishers did, they started to cut out the territories owned by Sardars. That also enraged the people, and that also enraged the Sardars. And what they did afterwards, they invaded Afghan and looted the wealth of the Afghan and came back. So Afghan people of Afghan king they were also very unhappy. And at that time, Afghan king was Dost Ali Khan. He was very much unhappy with this work of the Britishers. So many things counted. The people were not happy with the rule and regulations made by Britishers. They were harassing the Indian people. They were collecting more taxes from the Indian people. They were not looking after the welfare of the people. They cut down the expenses of Maharani Jind Kaur, and rules and regulations were made such a way that all will favor Britishers, in favor of Britishers, and somehow or the other they wanted to collect the wealth from the Punjab. And what they did, and one Mulraj Chopra, governor of Multan, he did not like the rule. So what they did, they seized the Multan, and Governor Mulraj Chopra lost the Multan territory. And Britishers, Sardars were there who were looking after the small factions. I told that small territories of Sikh empire. After the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, it was divided. That they were looked after by Sardars. They were also very good, seeing the welfare of the people. So what the Britishers did, if they gain the fame, then we won't be able to get support from the people. So what they did, they reduced the territories of the Sardars. So Sardars were also unhappy. The Britishers invaded Afghan in the Dost Ali Khan period. So that also, Dost Ali Khan was also unhappy. So all these things turned up to the Second Anglo-Sikh War. So the Second Anglo-Sikh War was fought between Mulraj Chopra. Why? Because his Multan was sieged from him. Sardars. Why? Because their territories were reduced by Britishers. And Dost Ali Khan, because they invaded Afghan and looted the thing. All these three became one team and they fought with British East India Company. At that time, Sir Huggo was the Governor General, and they Mulraj Chopra, Sardars and Dost Ali Khan lost the the war. British East India Company won. But in this war, three war battles took place to end the Second Anglo-Sikh War. Which were the three battles? Battle of Ramnagar, Battle of Chilianwala and Battle of Gujarat. These three battles were lost by the Sikh army and English won. So the result of that is Second Anglo-Sikh War was the winning of the British East India Company, and the Sikh army lost. Let us see what were the result of Second Anglo-Sikh War. What was the result is that annexation, means whole Punjab was taken by Lord Dalhousie. That time Governor General was Lord Dalhousie. So after the defeat of the Sikh army, that is who was there? Mulraj Chopra was there, then Sardars were there, and Dost Ali Khan from Afghan, because Afghan was looted by Britishers. So they lost. Due to that, the whole Punjab was taken by the Britishers. That is, annexation of Punjab by Lord Dalhousie was done. Then the very important diamond, today also it's a very valuable diamond, which is called Kohinoor. You must have heard the name. That Kohinoor diamond came into the hands of Britishers. Then Dulip Singh and Jind Kaur, mother and son, were separated from each other. That is what happened, the result of the Second Anglo-Sikh War. And very important thing, that is Lord Dalhousie, who became Governor General in 1845. He brought a very important rule which is called as Doctrine of Lapse. Very important rule. Due to that, so many things in the history took place. What is that rule? According to him, what he says that if a king dies, if he has no son of his own, the adopted son cannot become the next ruler. The adopted son cannot succeed the king. He cannot become the successor of the king. That is a very important rule made by Dalhousie. Means what? If the king does not have the son, and that the king dies, then that automatically that territorial kingdom will go into the hands of the Britishers. That was the main reason what he did for Doctrine of Lapse. Then, and due to this Doctrine of Lapse, so many territories came under Britishers. That was Satara, Nagpur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Jhansi and Jaitpur. All these territories came under Britishers due to Doctrine of Lapse, because all these territories king did not have their own son, and adopted son cannot be made as the ruler. So all this territory came into the hands of Britishers. So like this, what happened? Slowly, whole India was ruled by Britishers. So the Britishers' power extended to the whole India. Annexation of annexation one side they were doing, other side Doctrine of Lapse was a policy was made to be followed by the Britishers. So all this made But this war, due to this, whatever the policies were made, everything was in the favor of Britishers. and so much harassment for the people, and people were not at all happy. So this was making the people to grow uneasy among themselves. So what happened is that they started to be unhappy, and the Sepoy mutinies in 1857 broke due to this which was the first war of independence against Britishers. That is, the Indians realized no more we want to be ruled by Britishers, we should remove the Britishers and the Britishers should go away from India. That is the first war of independence, that is Sepoy mutiny in 1857 took place. This ends the lesson, the extension of British rule in India. The part which I have taught you now will be there in the exam, and 2 days, that is when you are writing, tomorrow is for the, you are going to write the exam, and day after tomorrow you are going to write the exam. For those 2 days, videos won't be sent, but after that continuously we will be getting the videos. So goodbye children, thank you children.